value of awards is just that it enables you to tell prospective clients that you have what other lawyers that they're considering hiring don't have. I don't necessarily think they're a true measure of the value that you bring to the marketplace. It's nice. It's nice to have these awards. But honestly, a lot of the types of awards that lawyers win, like super lawyers, best lawyers, they win those awards often because they're law firms where they have submitted their names. In the case of my awards, the awards that I've won are with Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly Reader Rankings Awards. And while in 2021, which was the first year that I started winning every year, somebody had just put my name up. After that, I wouldn't call it an award. I would call it a campaign.
Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World of Marketing, where I, Tom Foster, talk with legal leaders about, yes, you guessed it, marketing, mindset, and the growth of law firm businesses. I am thrilled to introduce our next guest, Steve Seckler, a seasoned lawyer turned marketer, career, and leadership coach specifically for lawyers. Steve is also the author of the upcoming book, Think Like a Lawyer, Act Like an Entrepreneur, which is set to be published in 2025. In today's episode, we'll explore the insights from his upcoming book and discuss how lawyers can balance their natural skepticism and risk aversion with the relationship-building skills needed to grow their practices. So let's dive in. Steve, welcome to the World of Marketing Podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. So you're in Boston, and we checked you out and did some research about you, and you've started out in the U.S. Attorney's Office. Tell us a little bit about this, because it's funny that you started an attorney and then realized that, I'd rather help attorneys than be an attorney, right? Is that kind of?
Well, to be actually more accurate, I did go to law school. While I was in law school, I did a number of co-ops because I went to Northeastern, but I never practiced law after that. So the U.S. Attorney was a co-op program and an internship, and I had 4 different experiences in law school, but I decided after doing that I didn't want to practice law. But I've been around lawyers, and I've been
Wow. So wait a minute. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just blown away by this. So you went to law school, you did the whole thing, and then you decided, I don't want to be a lawyer, but you got your law degree.
Yeah, I mean, this was at a time, I went to law school in the mid-'80s, and the thinking back then was get a law degree, you could do anything with it. I think there's probably still
That's probably true. Yeah.
misguided undergraduates who think that that's true, or maybe even are getting that advice. But I mean, at that time, the amount of debt that you would have to incur to become a lawyer was way less than it is now. I would never encourage anyone to do that. And I don't coach college students too much, although my son is in law school. And the one thing I did coach him that he listened to me, the advice that he followed was to become a paralegal first to see what it was like. But I have never practiced law, but I've been around lawyers for over 30 years. I work with lawyers. I understand what they do.
How did you do that, though? How did you come to that realization that you would prefer to coach them? And especially back then when coaching was that's a new thing, right? I mean, you've been doing this for a while.
When I first left law school, I wasn't coaching. When I first left law school, my first job was working for Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education. So I was really involved in planning conferences. So I got to work with a lot of very talented lawyers, meeting leaders of the bar and judges, whatnot. I was helping them. I was basically a conference planner, but I got to see how lawyers advance their careers. This was in the late 80s, early 90s. I was very interested in continuing legal education. I was very interested in professional development, but it was a nonprofit organization. And by the time we had our second child, it was time to make a little more money. So essentially what I was doing a lot of while I was at MCLE was recruiting. I also got myself a coach, and that helped me set myself up in business. And that got me very interested in the coaching field. And you're right, coaching really wasn't that much of a thing until the 80s, and it really started to take off in the 90s, and really more in the last 10 to
Oh,
15.
now it's crazy.
Yeah,
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's a coach now.
exactly. So when I left MCLE, Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education, in 1997, I knew I had a marketable skill, which was recruiting. I opened my own recruiting business, but I didn't want to be like every other recruiter. So I felt a strong sense of wanting to do it with integrity, and I thought the best way to do that was to also offer myself up as a coach. And since I had a coach, I figured that that was a service I could offer. But really, for quite a long time, I made most of my money in the recruiting business, and it's only been the last 3 years that I've completely jettisoned the recruiting, and now I spend 100% of my time coaching lawyers.
Were you recruiting lawyers? Was that?
Yeah, I was only recruiting lawyers.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So, wow, that's fascinating. So you got into this through recruiting lawyers, and obviously you get to know people, you get to know lots of different personalities through that, right? Because you're trying to match up personalities in that regard.
Well,
recruiting.
If you think that recruiting is all about really trying to make the best match, it is. But really, what I would say about the kind of recruiting that I did, which really ultimately was never a great fit for my personality, because it was contingent recruiting. The only time I earned a fee was when I made a placement. So it's, I won't use profanity, but it's throwing a lot of what up against the wall.
Right. Hoping something will stick, right? Sure.
So that's a lot of what recruiting is. And there's also, it's really a sales role. You're dialing for dollars. Not so much now because people don't answer their phones, but in the late 90s, in the late 1990s, that's how you recruited. You called people and you try to find that associate who at the moment, 15 minutes after the partner chewed them out, they were going to be open to hearing about an opportunity at another law firm. Right. And then over time, I did some recruiting in the corporate space also, because a lot of lawyers back then and even now, and probably even more so now, think that they want to go work in a corporate law environment. In a corporate environment where they can practice law in a corporate law department.
So did you, when you were doing the recruiting, were you more on the lawyer side or the law firm side?
Pretty much the entire recruiting business is built around the notion that the employer is going to pay a commission if you find them a candidate they want to hire, that they hire that candidate, and usually there's some kind of a refund period. The reality is that in law firm recruiting, the coin of the realm is really the candidate. Like if you have a great candidate, and that in those days, and even now to some extent, like a mid-level associate at a large law firm, that's a great candidate usually, especially if they're a transactional lawyer, corporate. If you have that candidate, then you could shop them around. On the corporate side, the coin of the realm is the job listing, because so many lawyers are chasing those types of jobs. And what you really want to do is get the job listing so that you can then shop that around and recruit lawyers for that position. But in both instances, the client is the corporation or the law firm.
That's tough business.
Yeah, I'm working with I'm coaching a woman, not recruiting her, who got shopped around. She actually is in a law firm now, and she got shopped around by a recruiter to a bunch of firms. She received an offer from that firm, and the job hadn't been posted yet. The firm hadn't announced that they needed somebody with her skill set. As soon as the job was posted, she got inquiries from 10 recruiters, like within hours. She already actually had interviewed for the job.
Why is that?
Because the types of people that large law firms want to recruit, it was a large law firm. The types of candidates that large law firms want to recruit, fundamentally, there's not an infinite supply of them, and they only generally
So
want to
true.
they generally don't only want to hire the types of lawyers that have the kinds of credentials that they perceive are necessary to be successful in a large law firm, which is, usually very good academics.
Did you
And
ever work with Reed Smith?
I have never worked with Reed Smith.
My cousin, Sandy Thomas, was the CEO of Reed Smith for many, many years. And we would, when we had lunch together, he would tell me that recruiting was the most difficult part, is getting good lawyers.
It is. It's very difficult.
That's the hardest part.
But that's in my history. I'm a coach, and I've been doing
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
it
So
for years. So
that brought you into coaching, and I don't know if I've ever interviewed a coach with so many awards.
So what I tell my clients, my clients are all lawyers,
Sure.
that the value of awards is just that it enables you to tell prospective clients that you have what other lawyers that they're considering hiring don't have. I don't necessarily think they're a true measure of the value that you bring to the marketplace. It's nice. It's nice to have these awards. But honestly, a lot of the types of awards that lawyers win, like super lawyers, best lawyers, they win those awards often because their law firms where they have submitted their names. In the case of my awards, the awards that I've won are with Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly Reader Rankings Awards. And while in 2021, which was the first year that I started winning every year, somebody had just put my name up. After that, I wouldn't call it an award. I would call it a campaign. I've been a very good campaigner. But, I know a lot of people. I'm part of a business networking group called Provisors, and people wouldn't have voted for me if they didn't at least like me or think I knew something.
Yeah, and Lawyers Weekly is a good publication. That we used to advertise in Virginia Lawyers Weekly. I know Paul Fletcher. I don't know if he's still there, but he was the publisher down here in Virginia Lawyers Weekly for years. So, and I knew that they had a Massachusetts. I think that we even advertised in that years ago. Interestingly,
it's an interesting idea, like who advertises now, because so many, you do websites and so many people are using organic search to find providers like you, myself as well, But thank you for the compliment. Having these awards, number one for lawyer outplacement, number one or number two for business development coach, and number two for executive coaching. It's just one piece of validation. It helps.
Exactly. It's validation. And that's what I mean. I haven't seen it in other coaching, others that claim to be coaches. I haven't seen that before. So even us, we're coaches to our clients, but I haven't got those kinds of awards. I've gotten other awards, but not those kinds of awards. So I congratulate you, sir, on that. And so you've got this book. You have Think Like a Lawyer, Act Like an Entrepreneur. Is that your first book, or is that one of many?
No. It's my first book.
Good for you.
I've written a lot of articles over the last 20, 30 years. And I never really wanted to write a book. I never thought I would write a book. But I had an editor, or I have an editor at the American Bar Association who edits some of the articles I submit to one of the publications there. And he made the suggestion, or at least I kind of ran it by him. And the reason that I never wanted to write a book is I wasn't really convinced that I had anything worth saying. And I don't mean nothing worth saying, but anything worth saying that hadn't already been said by somebody else. And what I realized, especially after getting feedback from this editor, Rob Salkin, who has really given me a lot of positive feedback on the articles that I've written more recently, is that I have kind of a different point of view, or a different way of saying things that a lot of people have said. I'm not sure that so much of what I've written is original, but the basic essence of the book is really very meta, because really what I'm trying to say is that as lawyers, we come to the table with certain innate skills and qualities that are very helpful to our clients. but they're not so helpful when we're trying to build our own business or advance our careers. And what's meta about it is that I have all of those qualities too. I mean, I was in recruiting for many years, but I didn't feel that comfortable seeing myself as a salesperson. I think a lot of lawyers think of selling as dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm skeptical, I'm risk averse, I don't like rejection. And it was hard to be a recruiter. And so the idea to write this book was like, well, okay, I don't really think I've changed my mindset in the last 30 plus years, but I've changed my behavior and it's helped me be successful. And maybe that's changed my mindset a little bit. So over the course of the book, there are all kinds of little tips and ideas that are sort of tied into the notion that put aside that thinking and just act and good things will happen. And your mindset might change, but you don't have to change your mindset in order to be effective in selling your legal services.
Well, it's true. I mean, this is the plight of the lawyer, right? They go, just like you said, they go to law school and they learn how to take care of their clients, but they don't learn how to run a business. And the job of a lawyer is to promote thyself, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is that you have to promote, whether you're solo or in a big giant firm or in the middle, it doesn't matter. You're always promoting yourself, right? I mean, and that's what you got to do. And it's a hard thing for lawyers to do. I've been working with lawyers probably 25 years. And I noticed the same thing. I came from marketing, sales and marketing background in the tech industry. And when I moved and learned about lawyers, got into the lawyer, I was amazed by it, that they just had no concept of business, many of them, and no concept of marketing. And were so many of them so opposed to it or are fearful of it. And still many of them are fearful of it. Right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you go to law school because you think you want to become a professional. You have a certain identity. And if you wanted to go into business, you would have gotten your MBA. And so people that go to law school are sort of naturally intellectually inclined, and selling just doesn't seem that intellectual. It's actually very intellectual in a lot of levels.
Totally is. It's a mind game for sure.
But it's a different kind of intellect that is required. So I really have grown to really enjoy it. I mean, I actually, one of my jokes right now is that, my clients are getting in the way of my marketing, and my marketing.
I know.
Yeah.
When it works, it's fun. It's not so fun when it doesn't work, when you do stuff and it's like, why isn't the phone ringing? Why aren't I getting those emails? Why am I not getting those contacts when I did all this?
Or why did the person who I did a consult with, who sounded like they were going to hire me,
right,
not end up hiring me? Or why are they ghosting me? Or why is that accountant who I thought was going to be a great referral partner ghosting me? Or
right.
And so those,
or that client that signed up with me so quick, and I thought they were going to be the best client ever, and they turned out to be a nightmare. Right? Like it's all over the map.
Right.
And then you're like, oh man, I shouldn't market anymore because I don't want jerks like that to work with. It's just all over the place. I've seen it all, and I know you have too. So what do you do? What would you say that you do differently, Steve, than other coaches?
Well, I really think what differentiates me is that I think just like a lawyer because I am a lawyer. So I understand every dysfunctional belief and thought that my clients have because I've had all of them. So I can relate. So I think what I do well is really relate to the struggles that my clients have in shifting their behavior so that it's consistent with the success that they want to achieve. In terms of the tools, the tools that I work with my clients on, they're not so different than a lot of other coaches. I mean, I start off with doing some kind of an assessment to understand what they're already doing, what kind of business they want, what they're doing to get that business, what tools they're using. But I also try to boil it down. I have a client who approached me about 6 months ago. She had a fairly successful solo law practice, and it had suddenly dried up. Like she didn't have any business coming in, and she was kind of freaking out. And
Yeah.
started off kind of looking at, well, who are recent clients who you haven't spoken to in a while, or just clients you haven't spoken to in a while. And it turned out there were quite a few, and she hadn't reached out to them because she wasn't really sure how to. So just breaking things down for people, I ended up giving her a template email. She sent out notices to those 20 clients, and she wrote back to me like 2 days later, Steve, I was like astonished. All these people are willing to get together with me. It's like, okay, well, you clearly made a good impression on them in the past, and they're happy to connect with you. Doesn't mean that every one of them has sent her work, but now she's kind of reoriented herself to, gee, I really want to keep in contact with these people. And I also help clients find the things that they like doing, because what I tell them is, like, if you're saying to yourself, I should, and fill in the blank, and the should maybe, I should be doing, a broader mix of litigation, or I should be playing golf. You're not going to be that motivated to do it. So rather than saying I should play golf, it's like, what do you like doing that's going to put you in contact with the kinds of people that could either be clients or potential referral sources? So it's finding those activities. So I have an article, or one of the chapters in the book is monetizing your children and pets to grow your law practice.
Right.
So
doing things that you like to do. Right.
So if you like your children, we sent our kids to a private middle school. We live in a fairly well-heeled community to begin with, but we sent our kids to a private middle school, and I made some very nice business relationships. I didn't send my kids there to make business relationships. I didn't send my kids there because I wanted clients, but because I got to know some parents of my kids' friends, I ended up with some good business out of it. If you like dogs and you go to the dog park, those are good emissaries to get you talking to people. So I help my clients find the things that work for them, that feel comfortable to them. And I try to get them to be thinking about the kinds of clients that they want to work with and the kinds of work that they like to do, so that they'll be motivated to do it, because it's hard to motivate yourself to do something that you don't like.
That's for sure. Well, that's good. And plus, what you do also is, of course, accountability. And that's what all of us need is, and I think that's probably one of the most important and powerful parts of coaching, is the accountability piece of being able to, you got to show up every month or every week or however you got your schedule right for that hour, and tell you whether or not, I did the thing that I told you I was going to do or not do, right? That's another big thing about it. And that's why I'm a huge proponent for coaching and finding the right coach for you. People work with people they like. And so it's really about getting to know the right person to be your coach, when you say, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. So let me give an example from my personal life. And I've had several coaches over the course of my career, but from my personal life, I play squash, which is an indoor racket sport. It's kind of like racquetball, but there's a lot more finesse to it, in my opinion. And there's a pro that was at the club for many, many years. And she was kind of a tough coach, tough love kind of coach, not completely. And actually today, for the first time, I just took a lesson from the new pro, and she's much more sort of reassuring, encouraging. And that first coach, her son is actually a national champion, so she clearly is a great coach. She knows what she's doing, but that's not what I wanted. I want somebody who's going to be more encouraging, who's going to make me feel good when I go out there, because I'm not there to become a champion. I'm there to become better at a sport that I think is fun. Now, the analogy in terms of coaching for marketing is that I'm not really the kind of coach that's trying to drive somebody from a $5 million practice to a $10 million practice. My coaching kind of pulls in all different disciplines. So it's kind of a mixture of marketing, career, leadership. And often the three intersect a lot, so do how big a practice do you want? What do you want your life to look like? And then let's talk about how you can build your practice. So I noticed that you had Steve Fretzen on your show. We're good friends. And Steve is great. I mean, he comes from a sales background. And what I like to say about him and me is that my autobiography will be Birth of a Salesman, and he comes from sales. So we've sort of both moved to the middle, because the kind of coaching that he does now is more consistent with what lawyers need, which is not high pressure sales, but, relationship.
Right. Relationship building for referrals. Right. That's what it's all about.
Value, offering value. And I've had I come from a background where my father thought that all business people were crooks. So I didn't value selling at all. So we've all kind of moved to the middle. But I do think that Steve he's trying to he works quite well with more of the heavy hitters. And I'm not saying that I don't have any heavy hitters. I mean, I have a managing partner that does have a $5 million practice. I'm not really working with him on marketing. But, I'm working with the person that's pretty uncomfortable with marketing and trying to get them to understand that if they just change some of their behavior, they're going to find the success that they want. So, and I try to be very encouraging, and I use a lot of humor, and that's really my shtick.
And that's great. I'm glad you brought Steve up. Yeah, he was a great guest. He's doing a great job over there. And once again, it just depends upon your flavor. And so, like, how does somebody get in touch with you, Steve? So they I see we got Seckler.com. That's SECKLER.com. That's his website, everybody. And then his email is steve@seckler.com. He's got it right there on his background. See? There you go.
Yes, that's the best way to get a hold of me. And if you go to my website, there's lots of career marketing leadership resources. I do have a podcast, Counsel to Counsel. And then if you go to the website, you could sign up for a complimentary consult. And, many of those people don't become clients, and that's totally fine. I like meeting lawyers and seeing if I can be helpful to them.
For sure. So everybody, if you'd like to meet Steve and see if he's a good fit for you and your coaching, and you're looking for this type, and plus if you would like to get his book that's coming out, then get in touch with him. And I recommend it. So, Steve, it's been great chatting with you, getting to know you better. You got anything else you'd like to say to our people?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. It's nice to be on the other side of the microphone. Well, I guess we're both on microphones, but it's nice to have somebody asking me the questions. And I'm inspired to pick up my guitar again, looking at your wall of guitars in the background there.
Well, if I've done nothing else today, then that will be my thing, and I'm very happy to do it, to inspire you to pick up that guitar and play again, my friend. Okay, buddy. Everybody, thank you so much. It's been Tom and Steve on the World of Marketing. You guys have yourself a great day. See you soon.